Hello, everybody. In this episode of Election Math, we are going to discuss a very important state, Orissa. The state of Orissa, the coastal state of Orissa, is a prominent part of the BJP's Look East approach, apart from West Bengal, which we will also talk about in one of the next episodes. In Odisha, the BJP managed to get a critical amount of support in 2019 when the BJP won 8 seats and reduced the BJD from the 20 seats that it won in 2014 to just 12 seats. In the assembly elections, however, the BJD managed to have the upper edge and it got 113 seats, BJP got 23 seats. Remember that Lok Sabha elections and assembly elections are held simultaneously in Odisha. This time Odisha is voting in the last 4 phases of the elections of 2024. In 2019, the state voted in the first 4 phases of the election. Now, BJD is a significant, powerful regional player of Odisha that has been around for decades. Both BJD and BJP were part of the NDA alliance till 2009, which is when the anti-Christian riots took place in Odisha, including in places such as Kandhamal, which is when the parties decided to go their separate ways. Since then, the BJP had found it difficult to establish a stronghold in the party, but in 2019, that was the moment when the change happened, and the party, saw a remarkable performance by its MPs, with 8 of them winning very crucial seats, including Bhubaneswar, which the party won for the first time, and other seats, especially 5 seats of Western Odisha. In fact, it swept all the 5 seats of Western Odisha. It also won 3 seats of Northern and Coastal Odisha. Now, this time, the fight is clearly between the BJD and the BJP. The Congress is a minimal player there. The Congress, in fact, just won 1 seat, Koraput, which is where it has a strong presence. It has relatively strong presence there. Otherwise, it is seen as a bipolar contest between the BJD and the BJP. Between the BJD and BJP, there are several issues that have come up. Remember, all of this political action is taking place, even as talks between the BJD and BJP failed just a few days ago. In March, there was a lot of talk about both the parties coming together. A little bit of history about the leaders of the alliances between these 2 states is that the personal relationship between Naveen Patnaik, who is the chief of the BJD, and Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of the country, and also, the most important figure in the BJP. These 2 leaders share a very cordial relationship. They share, in fact, a friendship. And Prime Minister Modi has also talked about it in the past, calling Naveen Patnaik his friend. And BJD has always supported the BJP's policies and politics, especially, its bills, important bills in the parliament, which is why the BJP has always seen BJD as one of its supporters, even if not as a formal ally. The BJD has also been very careful in its posturing and has always remained non-aligned, especially with the opposition parties, including the Congress. Which is why, with the talks failing, and the talks failed specifically because BJP decided to go alone, and the state unit of the BJP feels that there is a strong anti-incumbency, sentiment against Naveen Patnaik, which it needs to, focus on. And the BJD leader, specifically VK Pandian, more on him later, Mr. Pandian has come out and said that the BJP is fighting in the state to improve its tally so that it can break the BJD after elections. So this is the context in which the fight, the electoral fight for not just the MP seats but also assembly seats, is taking place between the BJD and the BJP. Now, the flashpoint between the 2 leaders is the flashpoint between the 2 parties is, of course, the Narendra Modi factor versus Naveen Patnaik's welfare moves. But the BJP has made it a fight about Odia pride and Odia glory. It has in fact targeted VK Pandian, who is Naveen Patnaik's, who was Naveen Patnaik's, PS, and then he was a bureaucrat who turned into a full-time politician. He's in fact leading the BJD's, campaign in the state this time, and the BJP has been aggressively attacking him, calling him the face of corruption, and also saying that he, there needs to be somebody with Odia blood and Odia pride who needs to sort of take this forward. Now, what has happened is BJP, of course, has also talked about, the lack of development in the state. and has also talked about the problems with the investment approach of the BJD. The BJD, on the other hand, has a very strong welfare model in place. It has the Biju Swasthya Kalyan Yojana, which is seen as a model for other states. It also has the Mission Shakti program, which is seen as the probably the only state sponsored department exclusively for the financial dependence of over 7 lakh women, focusing on self-help groups. It also has, scholarships for girls and also SE boys. And specifically this time, the BJD has come out with a manifesto that promises free electricity up to 100 units. And in fact, Naveen Patnaik has said that will be the first, order that will be issued. Now, that is a big promise. When you look at the BJP's promises, they are also equally good. In fact, the BJP is talking about increasing procurement prices for paddy, and also, it has also centered its manifesto a lot around improving Odia language, something that the BJD has been accusing the BJP of not doing all these years. Now, there are, of course, very important contests that are happening. One, of course, is in Sambalpur, where Naveen Patnaik, unarguably the most important leader of the BJP, he's contesting from Sambalpur. He's getting into this electoral fray after 15 years, and he's contesting against, Pranab Prakash Das, who is the organization secretary of the BJD, also known as Bobby. Bobby is seen as an outsider, but he's also somebody who has complete control over BJD. We also have Aparajita Sarali, sitting MP from Bhubaneswar. She is contesting from Bhubaneswar for the second time. You have Sambit Patra, who's a very well-known spokesperson of the BJP, who's often seen on TV screens. He's contesting against Naveen Patnaik, who lost last time, the election in Bhubaneswar. He's a former IPS officer. There's also Kendrapada, where Jay Panda is contesting again. So these are very important seats. Of course, remember that the BJD has strongholds in coastal Odisha, which is where the Ganjam district is, which is where Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik also comes from. Naveen Patnaik is also contesting an assembly seat from Western Odisha. This time, Western Odisha was where the BJP swept last time all 5 districts, which is where Sambalpur is, and also Bargra. And this time in Behrampur, which is in Ganjam, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in fact, made a very important announcement that the party will be forming, the BJP will be forming the government on March 10th, of course. And in fact, he also asked Naveen Patnaik to name all the districts of Odisha. Now, Naveen Patnaik is an English-bred politician, somebody who has studied in Ivy League schools and universities, and the BJP has often criticized him for not knowing the language or not understanding the pulse of the people. But remember that he is a chief minister who is about to finish his 5th term, and he's looking for a 6th term. So he is going to be a record-breaking chief minister, and he's seen as the most popular, face in Odisha, which is why the BJP is hopeful that it will be able to dodge the attack and the aggression of the BJP this time, because Naveen Babu's popularity, the BJD leaders say, will be able to sort of douse the fire that they think that the BJP has created in the state. But they also talk about other things, such as the youth budget that Naveen Patnaik has come up with. Imagine remember that he has allocated over 1,000 crore, asking youngsters of the state to come forward and talk about their vision, and this money will be spent on programs that are specific to the development of youth. He has also talked about the BJD is also talking about sports facilities, and this is something that Mr. Pandian has been heading. Mr. Pandian is the most trusted bureaucrat of the Naveen Patnaik government, and he is now leading the BJD campaign, and he has been focusing on this 5T program, which the BJD insists has brought in not just transparency and timely deadlines to performing governance duties, but also has looked at something very specific, which is basically ensuring that welfare reaches people. In fact, I met Mr. Pandian a few days ago, and he goes to every constituency with a hisab of sorts. He's telling people that this is what you told me last time, and this is what I fulfilled, and that the BJD thinks is going to go in their advantage. Remember, the first phase of election in Odisha took place on the 13th of May, which was actually the fourth phase of elections, and elections were held in Behrampur, Koraput, and Kalahandi, and also Navempur, and some of these districts have also been affected by Naxalism earlier. So there was also a lot of police bandobast in place, and that is also one thing that Naveen Patnaik government is focusing and showcasing as one of its achievements, saying that it has been able to get a large number of former Naxalites as part of mainstream society by giving them very attractive compensation packages and providing them skilling and training to be part of mainstream jobs. Now, in the midst of all this, the elections in Odisha, the second phase is going to take place on the 20th, after that on the 25th, and then of course on the first. Elections are going to go on till the 1st, and the counting will take place on the 4th of June. But this election, it's also going to pose some very important questions for not just the BJP but also for the BJD. One is, of course, will the Modi factor triumph Naveen Patnaik's welfare schemes in the state? Will the state, again go for a split voting? And that is something that the BJD has been focusing on. Jodi Shanko, it has been asking its voters to focus to vote for the Shanko, which is its symbol for both parliamentary and of course assembly elections. Will the state vote for the BJD or for the BJP, same party, in both parliamentary and assembly polls? And most importantly, how will the BJP be able to take its tally of 8 seats to more seats this time? Remember that Orissa is one state where the BJP is hoping to compensate for the losses that it might see in other states. We're not sure if it's actually going to see any losses, but when we talk to BJP leaders, this is one thing that they're pointing out. But largely it's going to be the Naveen factor, the legacy of Biju Patnaik, Naveen factor, the factor that is centered around BJP's welfare schemes, versus the Modi factor, the promise of change, development and jobs in the state, a state that has seen BJD for long, a state that many say are craving for a change, but at the same time holds on to some of its leaders very closely.